My name is Rachel and you're watching the Rachelistic channel. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see, there's a Christmas tree here, but we're not talking about Christmas today. We're talking about ADHD. So if you think that you have ADHD, then you're in the right place because today we're gonna figure out if you have ADHD. If you've seen my last videos, then you probably already know what to do before we get started. But if not, don't worry, I'll fill you in. So today we're going to be looking at the DSM-5 criteria for ADHD, and I'll be going through some examples to see if you might have ADHD. To make this process easier for yourself, I suggest grabbing a notebook or opening a document so that you can write down everything that relates to you. This will be very helpful if you plan on getting an official diagnosis, and it's also very helpful for just self-diagnosing so that you can see if you have enough examples to be diagnosed with ADHD. So pause this video, get your stuff together, and then come back and we'll get right into it. Awesome. Now that you have everything ready, let's go. So the first thing you need to know about ADHD is that there are 3 types of ADHD. The first is a predominantly inattentive presentation, which just means that you have mostly traits of inattention. The second is a predominantly hyperactive and impulsive presentation, which means you have mostly hyperactive and impulsive ADHD traits. And then the third is a combined presentation where you have equally both traits of inattention and traits of hyperactivity and impulsivity. So to be diagnosed with any one of these types of ADHD, you need to have 5 or more examples of the traits if you are 17 or older, or you need to have at least 6 examples if you are 16 and under. And so for the combined presentation, you would need to have that for both of the traits, so for inattention and hyperactive and impulsivity. But for just like the other 2 where it's just 1, then you would only need it for 1. So first we're going to look at the traits for inattention. So the first trait is that you don't pay close attention to details, or you make careless mistakes in your schoolwork or work or just other activities. So this could look like rushing through your homework or an assignment or tests or just, any type of work, anything really. If you tend to rush through things and then you find that you've missed questions or you just made these little mistakes that you know how to do properly, but because you were rushing you missed it and you made a mistake, then that is what this is talking about, what this trait is talking about. This also looks like sending things off before proofreading it or just checking over it, for these types of little mistakes. If you find that it's really hard for you to slow down and focus and pay close attention to things that you're doing, if it's work or schoolwork, then you could have this trait. If you just find that you always want to kind of just be moving on to the next thing and you don't really like focusing on one thing for too long, then yeah, this could be this trait. So the second trait is that you may have trouble holding attention on certain tasks or activities, especially if they're really long. So if you find that you frequently start doing things like a project or an activity of some sort, but then you never finish them because you lose interest or you get distracted, then that is this trait. You might be the type of person to start reading a book, but then you never finish it because you just lose interest in the book, or you get distracted and you start reading another book before finishing the first book. Or maybe you start an art project, but then you don't finish because you just get distracted or you just get bored of it. That is this trait. This also applies to if you have a lot of difficulty paying attention to long activities, like I said before. So that could be things like meetings or lectures or sermons, if you go to church. And it also includes like reading like long documents or even like long texts. Like if it just seems like it's just like really difficult to like pay attention through the entire thing without like zoning out or like getting distracted, then that is this. And if you find that you can only really pay attention to these kind of things if you're doing something else like chewing gum or walking around or like fidgeting with something or doodling, then that also goes into this. So the third trait is that you may have trouble with your listening skills. So if you find that you miss out on a lot of information when people are telling you things verbally, then this could be you. So for example, like if people give you directions like verbally and then once they're done talking, you forget like half of the directions or you just forget all of it, then this could be this trait. Or if like in school during like lectures or just classes, you miss out on a lot of information that's being told in the class because like you just are distracted or you lose focus or you just don't catch everything that they're saying because you're focusing on something else that they said, then this is that. You just have trouble like listening to people talk for a really long time and like getting all of the information that they're telling you. This also includes things like interrupting people when speaking. So if you're having a conversation with someone and then you frequently like interrupt people, like they say something and then you think of something and then you have to immediately say it instead of like waiting for them to finish talking and then you say it, then that goes into this as well. This also includes like zoning out when people are talking to you. If they're trying to tell you a story or something, if you just like zone out and you just, you don't hear everything that they're saying, then yeah, this goes into trouble with listening skills. The next trait is that you may struggle with following through on things. So this is kind of similar to like trouble holding attention on tasks, but if you like if you start projects or you start things and then you never finish them, this goes into this trait as well. For example, if maybe you started like playing an instrument and then you got all your stuff together, you got the instrument, you got maybe some like music books or something, but then you never actually went through with learning it. This is kind of what it's talking about. Some other examples, maybe you wanted to garden or you wanted to maybe like grow like tomatoes or something like that, and you got all the seeds, but then you just forgot to like water the plant and you just never actually followed through with this tomato project. And so this could also include like if you find that you try to set up like schedules or like organization systems or routines or something, but then you don't end up really following it for very long, or you like take all the time to like make this like new schedule and all the stuff, but then you never actually follow through with it. That's what this is talking about. So basically this is just kind of like if you have like a goal or an idea or something that you want to try, but like you always find that you never actually follow through on things. You never finish it, you never complete your goal or your idea, then yeah, this is what this trait really is about. So the next trait is that you may struggle with organization. And so this is both like organizing your spaces but also organizing your time. So if you find that your spaces are like always messy, like your room's a mess, you have a lot of trouble like keeping it organized and clean, or like your car or your desk or your locker, just any space that is yours, if it's always like really cluttered and there's like things everywhere, you find it difficult to find things, or maybe you know exactly where everything is but it just looks like really disorganized and messy, then this is kind of what that's talking about. And then for like having troubles with organizing your time, if you frequently like forget about appointments or you you try to like schedule your time, but you like overestimate or underestimate how long something's gonna take you. Like really struggling with like time management is what goes into this. So the next trait is that you may avoid, dislike, or be very reluctant to do certain tasks that require a lot of effort as you see it. So this could be like procrastinating on like homework or just like schoolwork, just like tasks that you don't like. So, you know, like cleaning or just anything that you feel like takes like a lot of effort to do. It takes a lot of like mental effort to like get yourself to do this thing. If you find that you really avoid those things, or you just like are always dragging your feet to do these things, then that's what this is talking about. So the next trait is that you may frequently lose things. So I think this one goes in with the organization one, but if you find that you often can't find like important things like your keys or your wallet or your phone, or I mean, I don't know how often you would lose your phone, but I don't know, you might lose your phone, or like your earbuds or paperwork, school supplies, like just things are that you should know where they are, but you like often are like losing things, you forget where you put them, then yeah. And then on the flip side of this, like if you also find that you are finding things in like unexpected places, like if you find your keys in the fridge, or you find like milk in like, I don't know, your drawer or something, I don't know. But if you just are like finding things in places where they shouldn't be a lot, then yeah, this goes into that as well. The next trait is that you may get easily distracted. So if you're often like daydreaming or like zoning out, or you just like, yeah, when you're supposed to be doing something else, yeah, this is that. Or if you find that you forget to finish tasks because you got distracted and you started doing something else. So like say you were supposed to be doing laundry, but then you got distracted by like a messy room, and then you started cleaning your room instead of doing the laundry, then this is where that comes in. Or if you like you try to start doing your homework, and then you get distracted by something that you see outside, and then you kind of forget what you were doing, then this is where that goes into. So the last example, or the last trait in the inattentive traits, is that you may be very forgetful. So again, if you like forget a lot about like appointments or meetings or like meetups with friends or stuff like that, or if you find that you often forget to reply to messages or like emails, or you may forget to like pay bills or like give in assignments on time, this is really where this comes into play. If you just really, it's just like if you're often forgetting about things that you should be remembering, or it's just like you find that you can't remember things that you're supposed to be doing, or you're just forgetful. I mean, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, like you're forgetful. So yeah, that's all the traits for inattention. And now we're going to move on to the traits for hyperactivity and impulsivity. So the first trait is that you may be very fidgety. So maybe you're often fidgeting with your hands or your feet, or you find that you fidget with papers or pens, or like just anything that's around you, maybe like during school or during work, or just, you know, anywhere really. Or if you find that you kind of like, you can't really sit still, that you're always like kind of shifting in your chair a lot, then that's all fidgeting. Yeah, so the next trait is kind of like the last one. If you feel like you are often getting restless and you feel like you need to move around a lot, then yeah, that could be this. If you like tend to like leave your seat when you're expected to be like sitting down for the whole time, so like maybe in school, maybe you would like get up and like walk around the classroom when you weren't supposed to, or maybe in meetings at work, like you are like wanting to like get up and like walk around when you're expected to be sitting for the whole time. Yeah, that's being restless. So another example could be if as a child you're often like running around and climbing on things because you just, like felt like you always wanted to be like running around and doing stuff, then that goes into this feeling restless trait. So the next trait is that you might find it difficult to stay quiet while doing like quiet activities. So if you find that you sing or hum to yourself while you're like doing different activities, then that goes into this. Or if you find that you talk out loud to yourself while you're like doing things, maybe while you're doing like your homework and you're like solving a problem, like you just like solving it out loud instead of like doing it in your head. Or if while you're like cleaning or just doing anything really, you just kind of like talk to yourself out loud instead of like, I guess, talking to yourself in your head. But yeah, I know that when I was little, I would talk out loud to myself while I was playing by myself, and then my sisters would be like, "Who are you talking to?" I'm like, "Talking to myself." So if that was you, then this is you. But yeah, but basically this is just if you find it difficult to just do things quietly or to just like do things in silence, like you need like music or you need to like talk to yourself or just hear something, then this is what that's talking about. So the next trait is that you may be very talkative. So if you're the type of person that's kind of like that's constantly talking and you just kind of like talk people's ears off, then yep, that's what this is about. If you just feel that you always kind of have to like say everything that's on your mind, and you don't really just keep it to yourself, but you're always like talking, or you always have something to say, like you never feel like you don't have anything to say, then yeah, this could be you. So the next trait is that you may have impulsive reactions to things. If you find that you like blurt out answers before a question is even finished being asked, or if you like try to like finish other people's sentences, then this is like being like impulsive. Or if you like find that you do things as soon as you think of them and like you don't really think about it or think about how that might go, you just kind of like do things without thinking, or like you act before you think. What is it? Or you don't think before you act. That's how you say it. But yeah, if you're that type of person, then this is what this trait is about. So the next trait is that you may have trouble waiting for your turn. So if as a kid you had a lot of difficulties with like sharing toys, like you always just kind of, you found it really difficult to just like wait your turn to like do things or like play on things, then this could be you. Or like in conversation, as I said before, if you like, you find it difficult to like wait for the other person to like finish talking before you talk, like you're always like interrupting people or like blurting out things. Yeah, and again with like questions in class, like I've said before, like just like blurting out the answer before like you're picked or like the teacher finishes asking the question. Yeah, or like if you find it difficult to like wait in lines, this all goes into this trait. And so the last trait for this section is you may have been told that you've been disruptive or that you're very destructive in things. This is kind of like some things are like repeated again, but like if you're like interrupting conversations, that would go into this trait of like being destructive. Or if you tend to kind of like include or like insert yourself into other people's like conversations or like things that they're doing without being invited, then that goes into this trait as well. Or like as a kid, if you often like kind of just played with other kids' toys like without asking, like if you're like in the same space or something and they had a toy there and you just kind of took it and started playing with it without asking them first, that goes into this as well. So that's all the traits for hyperactivity and impulsivity. So that's it for the DSM-5 criteria for ADHD. I hope that it wasn't too long and that you're able to pay attention to the whole thing. But if not, it's okay. If you had to pause it and come back or rewind, that's fine. It's okay. It's okay. At this point in the video, if you've been writing things down or if you've just been listening and you found yourself saying like, oh yeah, that's me, or like I relate to that like for a lot of things, then my advice is that you seek out an official diagnosis. If you found that you had enough traits to be diagnosed but you're still not quite sure if you have ADHD or not, then I suggest continuing to learn more about ADHD. And that goes for everyone, regardless of if you're like confident that you have it, or if you're not so confident, or if you already know that you have ADHD, still learn more about ADHD. There are so many different people on social media that talk about ADHD, so you should find them, follow them, and listen to what they have to say and listen to their experiences so that you can learn more about yourself and if you have ADHD or not. So that brings us to the end of this video. If you liked it, then please hit the like button so that I know that I did well on this video. If you have anything else that you would like to add about ADHD, or if you have any questions, then feel free to comment them down below because it would be great to see what you guys have to say. And if you like my videos, then please subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I post my next video. So as always, stay Rachelistic, or whatever your name is istic. Bye!